Hello everyone. First of all, thank you Recon for having us, and I really hope that the viewers will enjoy the session. Today I will talk about ReconPal. So before I get started, a quick introduction about us. My name is Jeswin Mathai. I've been working as a security researcher at Pentester Academy for more than 2 years now. I completed my bachelor's from IIIT Bhubaneswar. My research work has been published at various conferences such as Black Hat USA, Asia, Arsenal, Recon USA, China, Demo Labs. Last year, I also gave a research talk at DEF CON China and RootCon Philippines. Apart from this, I was the co-trainer in various of our trainings in Black Hat Asia, HITB Amsterdam, HITB GSEC, New Zealand OWASP, and RootCon Philippines. About Nishant, he's the R&D manager and lead trainer at Pentester Academy. Before joining Pentester Academy, he was a firmware developer and has worked on enterprise Wi-Fi access points and wireless intrusion prevention system sensors. He has a master's degree in Infosec and has published his work in conferences such as Black Hat USA, Asia, DEF CON USA, China, HITB Amsterdam, and a couple of other venues. He was the lead trainer at our trainings in Black Hat, HITB, OWASP New Zealand Day, and he's also conducted multiple trainings for private clients. Sarthak Sani is a security researcher at Pentester Academy. He has a bachelor's degree from Graphic NR University, and he has created many tools and bots to ease the process of pen testing. So these are the logos of conferences where we have either published our work or conducted a training. All three of us work for Pentester Academy. Pentester Academy is a course library where we have over 40 plus highly technical courses. And Attack Defense is our lab platform where we have over 1900 challenges. The best part about Attack Defense is everything works from the browser. So as long as your device supports a web browser, you'll be able to play labs from it. And every student gets a dedicated environment so that there is no one else on the network. It's just you. So now let's take a look at ReconPal. So on 11th June 2020, OpenAI released GPT-3, and it surprised the whole world. It made us realize the enormous progress AI has made in the past couple of years, and GPT-3 demonstrated it really well. So we are in the age of automation, right? Whenever we find something difficult, we try to automate it. So one of the things which we felt was difficult in pen testing was, now since there are over thousands of tools and each tool has enormous number of options, some tools even have over hundreds of options. So it is very difficult to remember all of the tools, their option, and to get everything right during a pen testing is getting difficult. So how can we ease the process, or at least ease a part of the pen testing process? So this is where GPT-3 comes into the picture. So now with ReconPal, all what the user has to do is type in a text regarding what they want to do, and ReconPal will make it happen. So this way, we have created a generic way of using various tools. So this is beginner friendly. So if anyone is getting started with pen testing, all they have to do is type in a text regarding whether they want to scan or what they want to do, and the ReconPal will automatically figure out which tools are to be used and what to do next. So now let's take a look at the components used. So we have used OpenAI's GPT-3, Shodan API, Telegram bot, and we have packaged everything in form of Docker containers. So we'll take a look at why we have used each components one by one. So before we get into OpenAI's GPT-3, a little bit about OpenAI. OpenAI is an AI research and deployment company. It was founded by Elon Musk and Sam Altman. The popular projects for which the company is known for is GPT-3, which we'll take a look at in a couple of minutes. Jukebox. So Jukebox is a neural network which can generate music. GPT-2 was the predecessor of GPT-3. So when GPT-3 was released, it was termed as the most powerful language model ever. It had 175 billion parameters, which was a great increase compared to other language models. And people used GPT-3 to create amazing applications. So few of the applications which people created included an application where the user only has to enter the text for what they wanted to create, and it automatically generated the required code for it. Similarly, a developer created a plugin for Figma where the user can enter what they wanted to design and it automatically created the design. GPT-3 was used to write out poems, complete text. It was used to generate complex mathematical expressions from text. It was used to fill missing data in spreadsheets. And it could even generate simple text by processing legal text and vice versa. Comparison is one of the best way to realize something's greatness, right? So this is a comparison of GPT-3 and other language models. So GPT-2 had 1.3 billion parameters. NVIDIA's Megatron had 8.3 billion parameters. Google's T5 had 11 billion parameters. And Microsoft Turing Energy had 17 billion parameters. Whereas on the other hand, GPT-3 had 175 billion parameters, which was over 10 times in increase of parameters compared to the Microsoft Turing Energy, which was previously known as the most powerful language model. So now let's take a look at the change in accuracy which occurred due to increase in parameters. So in case of GPT-3, we had 1.3 billion parameters and accuracy was here. And in case of GPT-3, we have 1.75 billion parameters. And as you can see, the accuracy is much closer to that of human. And this is why GPT-3 had such a huge impact so far. So the second component which we have used is Shodan. So Shodan is a search engine for IoT devices, machines, and whatnot. So now let's take a look at how to use Shodan to find machines. So now let's say we want to find machines which have exposed Docker TCP socket. So what we are going to do is search for port 2375, which is the conventional TCP Docker socket port, and hit search. And we'll notice we have found 50,000 results. Similarly, if you want to find container instances, you can simply search by name and we'll get the result. Similarly, if you want to find Docker registry, we can search by headers as well. So this, using Shodan, we can search for vulnerable machines on the internet. So the reason we chose Shodan was because it also has an API which you can use to query and find out vulnerable machines and vulnerable services. Then we used Telegram bot because Telegram has a desktop application for all platforms. The Python support is really amazing. It is free and it's very easy to set up. And to package everything, we have used Docker because a traditional script might create problem on your system. Whereas in case of Docker, all you have to do is install Docker, pull our images, and that's it. And the best part is if we release an update, all you'll have to do is pull the new image. So now let's take a look at the architecture of ReconPal. So we have a user who sends text to a bot. That text is received by the controller. The controller sends that text to the OpenAI API, which in turn returns a string stating the module to use, the tool to use, and the operation to perform. Depending upon this information, the controller calls the finder module, scanner module, or the attacker module. The finder module is used to find machines using the Shodan API. The scanner module is used to scan machines with tools such as Nmap, and the attacker module is used to perform attacks such as dictionary attacks using Hydra. ReconPal is packaged in form of Docker containers. So we have 3 Docker containers. The first one is the controller container. Second one is the scanner container, which contains all of the scanning tools. Third one is the attacker container, which contains all of the attack tools. So when a user sends a message to a bot, it is received by the controller container. It sends the text to the OpenAI API, and depending upon the operation, if it is a find operation, it will send a request to the Shodan API, get all of the machine detail, and return it back to the user. If it is a scan operation, it will connect to the scanner container through WebSockets and call the respective tools to perform the scanning. if it is an attack operation, it will use WebSocket to communicate with the attacker container to perform that attack. So the reason we have separated controller, scanner, and attacker is because we'll be providing updates for all of the three containers. But in case if a tool is not present, which is required by the user. So the reason we have separated controller, scanner, and attacker is because we will be providing updates for all of the three containers. But in case if a tool is not present in the scanner or attacker container, which is required by the user, they themselves can extend the images further or derive the images further. In case of attacker container, if they want to add support for another tool, they can write a wrapper script, and this way they can manage the container themselves instead of relying on us for adding the specific tool to it. So we do need OpenAI API key, Shodan key, and the packages required are docker.io and Docker Compose. So now moving on to the installation part. So first of all, we have to create a Telegram bot. Then we have to install the packages, which is docker.io and Docker Compose. Then we have to fetch the docker compose.yaml file. And we have to edit the YAML file and mention our own OpenAI and Shodan API key along with the bot token. So we'll get into that in a couple of seconds. So once we have done this, all we have to do is run the command docker compose up, and it will bring up all of the required containers for ReconPal. So now let's go into a demo. So this is the installation part. Now in order to create a bot, first of all, we have to search for bot father and start it. So this will return us with a couple of commands which we can use. So we have a command here which says new bot, create a new bot. We have to click on it and it will ask for a name. We have to mention a name, and then we have to mention a unique username for our bot. So in this case, we are going to use ReconPal bot. Now this will return a token which we have to copy, and then we have to paste it in the docker compose.yaml file. So I've already cloned the repository. So what I'm going to do next is update the docker compose.yaml file. So please also make sure that the Shodan API key as well as the OpenAI API key is mentioned. Otherwise, it will not work. So once we have this, all we have to do is run the command docker compose up. So this brings up all of the required container for ReconPal. So the next thing to do is access the bot. So we can access the bot from the URL mentioned by the bot father. So now we'll have to click on the start button, and there you go. We have the bot configured and ready to go. Now let's go back to the slides. So this is the usual setup. We have a machine where the controller, scanner, and attacker container is running. Now let's say the user decides to send a message to find machines with Shodan API. And the controller sends request to the Shodan API and finds public IP addresses of a couple of machines. So in the next phase, what the user does is tells the bot to perform scan operations. So now it will scan all of it. Now we cannot demonstrate this because we do not have permission to attack all of these public machines. So instead, what we are going to do here is use a different setup. So for this demo, what I've done is created a VPC on AWS, spawned two machines inside that VPC. One is connected to the internet, other is not connected to the internet and can only be accessed via private IP address. And the second machine is the vulnerable machine. I've installed various vulnerable components here, such as a VSFTPD, vulnerable application, and so on. So now what happens is the user will interact with the bot. The bot will interact with the machine which is running the three container. And these three containers can interact with the second machine, which is the vulnerable machine, using private IP address. So now let's jump into a demo. Now, once the bot is ready, all we have to do is type in the type of operation which we want to perform. So in this case, what we are going to do is we're going to search for cameras in Philippines. So we've typed in this text which states, find me the cameras for Philippines. Now what happens is, this is sent to the controller, and controller sends it to the OpenAI API. And OpenAI API returns with a text stating that it is a find operation. And now the controller uses the Showdown API to scan for cameras and the location, which is Philippines. So it will take a couple of seconds. Now we have found over hundreds of results. So it will take a couple of seconds for all of these IP addresses to be printed. So as you can see, using these IP addresses, we can access the cameras. So either the cameras might be protected with weak credentials or default credentials, and we might be able to view the recording. So currently in the demo, we cannot access these IP addresses specifically because we do not have the permission to access them. Next, what we are going to do is search for machines which have their Docker TCP port exposed. So what we can do is search, type in the query which says, find me Docker hosts around the globe. So what will happen is the OpenAI API will return it's a find operation, and what we are looking for is Docker, and it will send in the location. So since searching for Docker hosts around the globe can result a lot of result, what we are going to do is search for Docker hosts in China. So what this will return is list of IP addresses of machines which have their Docker TCP socket exposed. So this way what we can do is interact with the Docker TCP socket, spawn a container on the machine, and break out of it to compromise the host machine. This way we'll have root access on the machine. Now, as you can see, we have over 100 machines which have Docker TCP socket exposed. So we are looking at compromising over 100 machines, and we'll get root access on all of them. So it is going to take a couple of seconds since it returns like 100 results. So once everything is done, the processing is done, it will return a done message. Now let's search for portainer instances. So again, what happens here is OpenAI will figure out that, okay, it's a find operation and we are looking for portainer, and the location is Philippines. So next what we can do is interact with the portainer instances, and if there's a weak password or a default password used, we can try to get into the portainer instance, start a container, break out of it, and compromise the host machine. Next, what we are going to do is frame the sentence in a different way and look for memcache instances around the globe. Now, the best part about memcache instances is if you are able to find memcache instances online, we can perform DDoS attack using them. So again, we have found over 100 results. So it will print out all of the IP addresses. Now what we can do is in the next step, perform scan, or we can attack on these IP addresses using the scanner or attack module. So it will take a minute or so for all of the IP addresses to be printed. That's a lot of IP addresses. So once this is done, we have a done message. Next, what we are going to do is use the scan module. Now, in order to perform the scan operation on the returned IP addresses, what we can do is mention that scan all machines from previous result or previous query. This way, what will happen is OpenAI will return that it's a scan operation and we have to scan all the machines, and it will mention that refer to the previous query or previous result. This way, the controller will check what was the IP addresses which were returned, and it will perform the scan using Nmap accordingly. So, but again, we cannot attack or scan these machines because we do not have the permission to do so. So what we are going to do is scan the private IP address where I have the vulnerable machine. So it will use Nmap to perform the scan. So as you can see, we have a couple of ports open on the machine. So next, what we are going to do is perform all port scan. So to do that, we can mention like scan all ports and the IP address, or something like this, off 10.0.0.240. Now it will use the -p minus option in nmap to scan all of the ports. So as you can see, now we have a port which is 11211, which was not shown previously. So that means, okay, it successfully did the all port scan. Now let's try to perform version detection as well. So what we are going to do is mention scan all ports of 10.0.0.240 and perform version detection. So what happens now is OpenAI understands that, returns that it is a scan operation. You have to scan all of the ports, you have to use nmap, and we have to also perform version detection. Depending upon this information, the controller figures out which options to use with nmap. And that's how the scanning is happening behind the scenes. So it will take a couple of seconds since we are performing version detection. And there we have the result. So as you can see, we are running, we have VSFTPD running on port 21, and this is a vulnerable version. And then we have memcached, MySQL, Apache server running. Now let's attack the services running on the vulnerable machine. So what we are going to do next is use Derby to enumerate the files and directories on the target machine. So what happens is, as you can see, Derby, the output of Derby is returned on the screen, and we have found a couple of directories such as .git, a couple of files such as index.php, phpinfo.php. So now we are going to use SQL map on the web application. So let's see if it works. So to do that, we are using try SQL map command. So now the OpenAI API checks it that this is not a scan operation, so this is an attack operation. And it interprets that we have to use SQL map on this target machine. Now the controller sets the parameter accordingly. So SQL map was unable to find any parameters, so that's why it failed. So now let's try to use Nikto on the vulnerable machine. We are going to use Nikto. So what we have done is typed in the command use Nikto to scan this machine. So now the module, the OpenAI API figures out that it's an attack operation using Nikto, and we have to scan the specific IP address. So the command is generated by the controller and it is sent to the attacker module. And as you can see, Nikto is scanning the application and it has returned some information such as the application is running on PHP 5.5.9 and allowed methods are get, head, post options. Now, since we have not received the done command, that means the scan is still in progress. So as soon as the scan is completed, we'll get the done message. So Nikto has also found out that there are a couple of files such as phpinfo.php, readme.git directory, and so on. The scan is still running. It will take probably a couple of seconds for it to finish. So now it is completed. Now, as you previously noticed, there was a memcached server running on the vulnerable machine. So what we can do is type in a statement such as check if memcached server can be used for DDoS attack. Now, on the attacker container, we have a couple of scripts. One such script is to check if a remote memcache server has UDP port open and there is no authentication enabled. So now the key important thing is that once we send this to the OpenAI API, the OpenAI API has to return that it is an attack operation and it is on memcached and it is related to DDoS. So with these information, the controller figures out that we have to run the specific script. So let's see if this works. So it worked. And as you can see, we have a message stating that yes, the memcache server is vulnerable and can be used for amplified DDoS attack. So what happened was OpenAI API returned that this is an attack operation on memcache, and it returned a string which stated DDoS attack. Now with this information, the controller ran the specific script to find out if this is possible. Now what we can try is to crack the root password of this machine using the default word list. So now what happens is this string is sent to the OpenAI API, and it returns that this is an attack operation. We have to perform a cracking of this specific user using this specific word list. So now what happens is the controller gets this input, it checks that what are the tools available for cracking. So currently we only have Hydra. So then the controller formulates the command to perform the dictionary attack. And that command is then sent to the attacker module and executed there. So now the Hydra dictionary attack has started. So it will take a couple of seconds for this to complete. So the dictionary attack completed successfully, and we have found the password is password. So the next question arises, so now we can pass in text and it will be sent to the OpenAI API. Now what if I want to execute a command manually? So in order to do that, what we have to do is mention the greater than symbol, and followed by that we have to type in the command. So what we are going to do is perform TCP connect scan on port 80 of the target machine. So this is directly sent to the scan module. It is not sent to the OpenAI API server, and it will perform the scan. And similarly, if you want to execute any other command, it will again be sent to the scan module and the command will be executed here. So now this concludes the demo of ReconPal. So now let's get back to the slides. Now we have seen how you can use ReconPal to find, scan, and attack various machines. Now there are a couple of blockers which might create an issue for you. So the first one is that OpenAI API is still in beta, and in order to get the API key, you'll have to send a request to them, and there's a really long wait list. So it might take a couple of months before you can get it. And it is expected that when it is released and gets out of beta, it's going to be very costly. So initially you might have like a 3-month free trial, but then you'll have to pay a huge price for accessing the API. Second thing to note here is the Showdown API which we used was not a free one. So in order to use ReconPal, you'll either need a lifetime membership plan or the API plans of Showdown. So the lifetime membership plan, you have to pay $49. It's a one-time payment, and you'll get 100 query credit per month. That is, you can fire 100 requests or 100 find requests from ReconPal. If you want to have more query requests, you will have to go for the API plans, which is like for freelancer, it's $59. For small businesses, it's $299, and for corporate, it's $899 per month. So then you'll have over 10,000 queries to like 2 million and so on. So now what to expect in the future? How is ReconPal going to evolve? So with version 2, we are going to introduce audio support. That is, you won't have to type anymore. All you have to do is press the record button, speak, and the audio clip will be analyzed by the controller. The text will be generated, and it will interact with OpenAI API and decide what to do. The second thing which we are going to do is enhance the input processing. So currently what happens is there is intelligence on the controller, and the controller gets the text from the OpenAI API, and it formulates the commands with the tool and the specific options. Next thing what we are going to do is we are going to feed OpenAI API with the documentation of various tools and see if it can formulate the command itself. This way, the central intelligence from the controller will be removed and OpenAI API will create the command itself. The third thing which we are going to do is try to generate summary from the output. Again, what we are going to do is feed OpenAI API with the documentation of the tools and see if it can generate the summary somehow. So this is like simpler way of visualizing or understanding the output. The fourth one is interactive attacker session. So currently we have seen like we can attack various machines, but we cannot get a interactive session back. So what will happen with interactive session is we'll be able to compromise this machine and then we'll get a URL. Using that URL, we can, when we access that URL, we'll get a session on the target machine. So that is our plan for the V2. And now, OpenAI API is a really costly service when it will be released. So we'll try to look for other alternative language model which you can use, and that will be in the version 3. So that concludes the talk, and I really hope that everyone enjoyed the session. And if you have any questions, you can mail it at jeswin@pinterestacademy.com. Thank you.